Hi, hello, happy Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? I think it is. I hope you're good. I hope you're having a good week so far. Today I'm here with a book unhaul. Yes, I'm getting rid of books. I like getting rid of books. I just like purging my shelves every year. I like to get rid of books actually anywhere from 1, 2, or even 3 times a year. I have this thing with my bookshelves where if I don't see myself rereading a book, or if it doesn't bring me enjoyment to see it on my bookshelf, I want it to go. Even if it does bring me enjoyment, sometimes I also just really like to pass along books because I want other people to read them. So that's another thing that I like to do. But honestly, I have 3 bookshelves, and I have more than 3. I have like 5, but I buy a lot of books. I get a lot of books, and I just can't keep everything, unfortunately. So if I someday have my own library, like my own actual just like shelf on shelf on shelf on shelf, and I can keep everything, fine, that would be amazing. But I can't where I live. So I like getting rid of books. And today I have around 10, 11, 12, maybe 13 books that I'm going to get rid of. First off, I have, let's see, Legendary by Stephanie Garber, and also Finale by Stephanie Garber. I don't know what I did with Caraval. Maybe I already got rid of it. I couldn't find it on the shelf. Here's the thing with this trilogy. I thought the first one was okay. The second one I actually really liked a lot. I really like Legendary. And then Finale was kind of atrocious. It just I don't understand. Like, what happened to the character development? What happened to the plot? What happened to the magic? What happened to the side characters? Like, what happened? If you like books that have to do with a carnival aspect, if you like a little bit of the whimsical, the magic, you might like it, but at the same time it might make you angry. You might want to throw the book at the wall. Next I have Grayson by Lynn Cox. I actually feel sad getting rid of this book because it was a gift, and I always feel that way about books when I'm gifted them, someone gives them to me, or they're recommended to me by someone because they thought of me. It's always so sweet and kind, and I appreciate it so much. But then, you know, I read this one, which was a gift, and it was it just was very disappointing. I loved the story of this, but I just did not enjoy the writing. The writing was written like it was written by someone very young. It just came off as very childish, and that's not always bad, but just for this, I just didn't enjoy it. I imagine someone else would really like this, so I'm definitely going to give it away and try to get it into someone else's hands because it's a cute story about a girl who bonds with a whale, and she saves the whale, and then her life and whatnot. So it's just, unfortunately, like I said, the writing, so it's fine. Moving on. Next I have Summer at Forsaken Lake by Michael D. Beale, and I remember specifically keeping this book for the longest time because I read it on the plane while I went to go visit my dad in Oregon, and I remember that trip that I went to go see him really fondly because we did a lot. We went hiking, and we went on the boat, and I drove the boat, and it was so much fun. So when I think of this book, I think of that. But the book itself, I forgot so many things about this book. I remember it was a YA kind of contemporary about these kids that went to go visit their uncle at this lake, and the family had some secrets and whatnot, and I think it was cute. I remember it being somewhat cute, but I don't really remember much more than that. And when I opened this book, I actually found my plane ticket from when I went to go see my dad. So if anything, I think I'm going to keep this to remind me of the trip as opposed to the book, because I think someone else would like the book. It's a gorgeous cover, but you know, I just don't need it anymore, so I'm just gonna pass it along, but I'll keep the plane ticket, I guess. Next I have Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. I read what was the first one called? Children of Blood and Bone, and I thought it was pretty good. It was a pretty good start to a series. It had some character flaws as well as world building. I wasn't fully sold, but I thought it would get better in the second book. I thought it was a great start. But then the second book, I didn't like where it went. I don't like the characterization. I don't like the choices that were made in, like, some of the world building aspects were kind of just left to the side, while these characters made really poor choices that I wasn't a fan of, and I get the reasons behind that, but I think as an enjoyment factor for me, I just don't want to read them anymore. So I'm just gonna pass it along, unfortunately. Next, I have Seraphina by Rachel Hartman, which is another book that I also kept on my shelf for the longest time. I don't know why. I did enjoy this at the time that I read it, but I never continued on with the series, and I don't think I ever will, unfortunately. I think the next one's called Shadow Scale, but will I ever buy it? I don't think so. I don't think so. I liked it because dragons are so cool. Anytime a book has dragons, sign me up. But again, I honestly kept it because I really liked the cover. I didn't love the book enough to read the rest of the book, so why do I still have this? Do I really want this on my shelf because of the beautiful cover? I mean, I could have it on my shelf for the beautiful cover, but then, you know, what's the point? I don't need it. I don't need it. Next, I have 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This one I feel like I almost should keep and try to reread in a couple years maybe, because I feel like when I read this, it was such a chore to get through this book, and it was very hard for me to grasp this book as a whole because there were so many different names to keep track of, and I kept getting people confused with other people in this book, and the book was written in such a lyrical, almost just constant cycle that I couldn't grasp this book. I could not grasp this book for the life of me, and it was so hard to just keep a hold of, to keep everything together, just to understand it all. So I feel like maybe I should keep this one and then give it another reread in a couple of years, or maybe it's just not for me. I'm not entirely sure. So you let me know if maybe I should try to read this again when I'm older, when maybe I'm more capable of consuming this sort of writing style. It was just so hard to follow. I don't know. I'm very torn because I know this is really loved, but at the same time, honestly, you know, me reading this, I did not love this at all. Did not. So I don't know. I don't know. Next, I have Artemis Fowl by Ian Colfer. This was I was sent this book and the second book, I believe, by the publisher, and I actually really enjoyed Artemis Fowl upon reread. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I can see myself definitely reading the next couple books in the series and continuing on. But I think it's one of those series that though I'll enjoy reading it, I don't think it's something that I'll necessarily want to have on my bookshelf. I think I'd more than love just to rent them out from the library, you know, and then return them and whatnot, because I don't see myself wanting to go back and reread these books. If anything, I can give them to my nieces and nephews or whatnot. They might really like these to keep them, but I think it's just, I would have loved having these as a kid, collecting them, but I just don't think I need them anymore, so I'm just gonna pass along Artemis Fowl. Next, I have Flight 116 is Down by Caroline B. Cooney, and I read this one earlier this year, and this one was really fun. It is your typical disaster story from like the 80s or the 90s, so it's just ridiculous all over the place, and I did enjoy it, but I just don't think I'll ever reread it. But if you are a fan of a good survival story, but you don't really care about character development, like the plot is your main interest, then you might like this. And then I have We All Looked Up by Tommy Wallach. This one was a little hard to take off my shelf because I really enjoyed this when I first read this a long time ago. It is a young adult book about the end of the world, basically. It's more in the style of a YA contemporary than anything, but it's about like the last day on Earth and these group of teenagers. You have the jock, the loser, you have the pretty girl, you have all of these different stereotypes of characters as they just kind of reflect on their life and live their last day before the end of the world. And it's very metaphorical more than anything, but it's beautiful. I really like this, and maybe I would reread it at one point, but honestly I'm not sure. I liked it when I read it, and I kind of don't want to reread it because at the same time I don't want to not enjoy it now. I don't want to see the flaws that maybe I missed out back then, so maybe I'll just pass it along and see if someone else wants it because I did enjoy it at the time. So I mean, I would recommend it if you're interested in young adult contemporary that has like a little twist, like an end of the world twist maybe. You might really like this. And then I have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I liked this book. I did enjoy Ninth House. It was very hard to get into, but I think once you get past at least the halfway mark, so it's a lot to get through, but once you get halfway through, you're very invested in the story, and I think the payoff is really good, but at the same time, I don't think it's a series that I'll ever reread for one, but I definitely want to continue reading the book, so when the second one comes out, I'll give it a read, but it's just not necessarily something that I think I'm in love with, that I truly need on my shelf, so I'm just gonna pass it along. But yeah, and the last two books, I don't know why I still have these. Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. Midnight Sun, I think, just came out, which is Twilight from Edward's perspective. Do we really need that? Do we really need more Twilight? What's the point of that? I don't need, I see, I have Twilight. I don't have the rest of the books because I got rid of those a long time ago. I had this on my shelf for nostalgic sakes, I guess, just to think about my childhood going to the movies at midnight. But honestly, like, Twilight is poop. So I don't need it. And then The Host, I kind of liked The Host, but I don't need The Host. She never wrote a sequel, so what's the point? So I'm gonna get rid of The Host. And those are all the books for my book unhaul today. Have you got rid of any books lately? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, I'm gonna go and maybe see if I can find other books that I want to get rid of, because who knows, maybe I'll find some more, but I think that's it. I'm rambling. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Bye.